Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss an important topic of general surgery, which is surgical infection. Before starting surgical infection, here an important line which has written in this book, that humanity has three great enemies. One of the biggest enemy of the human being is fever, another one is famine, and the other one is war. Whenever a patient got, so when we say a patient has fever, what does that mean? It means that patient may have any underlying infection or any underlying disorder, any underlying morbidity which is leading to fever. So while dealing with the surgical infection, we first have to understand what is basically infection. When we look at what is infection, infection is basically defined as the invasion and multiplication of microorganisms such as bacteria, viruses, and parasites that are not normally present within the body, and inflammatory response of the body to these microorganisms. There are two things, that number one, invasion or invaders, that are microorganisms, which are bacteria, which are viruses, which are parasites that invade within the body. When they invade in the body shows its response against those microorganisms. The response from the body is inflammatory. So invasion of the microorganism lead to the inflammatory response, which is infection. So here is a term which is referred to as bacteremia. What is bacteremia? It is basically the presence of bacteria within the bloodstream, but this condition does not always lead to SARS or sepsis. What is SARS or sepsis? In order to understand SARS, we first basically know what the SARS represents for. SARS represent for systemic inflammatory response syndrome. What does it happens in this disorder, in the syndrome? There are two or more of the following variables. First thing, when we have received a patient, we will start our examination in four basic steps, that are inspection, palpation, percussion, and then auscultation. Here we are concerning with the step 2, that is palpation. Whenever we receive a patient, we first start our examination through observing patient's pulse, then respiratory rate, then moving on towards the temperature of the patient. So when we are dealing with the heart rate, or we are defining SARS, we come to know that the heart rate of the patient is greater than 90 beats per minute, or the respiratory rate is greater than 20 beats per minute, with a partial pressure of carbon dioxide less than 32 millimeter of mercury, while considering the normal partial pressure of carbon dioxide must be greater than or equal to 33 millimeter of mercury. Now dealing with the temperature of the patient must be greater than 38 degree Celsius, which would be referred to as fever, or less than 36 degree Celsius, which would be referred to as a state of hypothermia. Abnormal white blood cell count will lead to an important diagnosis towards infection. Whenever the abnormal white blood cell count, that is a white blood cell count greater than 12,000 microliter or less than 4,000 microliter, will represent that there is any kind of infection or systemic inflammatory response syndrome. Four factors need to be remembered: heart rate, respiratory rate, temperature, and white blood cell count. Up till now we have discussed what are the parameters we are going to measure in systemic inflammatory response syndrome, how the systemic inflammatory response syndrome is going to be held in a patient. In order to understand the definition of this, first we have to move in a sequence, that we receive a patient with a trauma leading to infection. In that infection there is inflammation, that inflammation leading to ischemia. Via this parameter we can define the systemic inflammatory response syndrome, that we have a patient with trauma, and that trauma there is infection leading to inflammation, and at the end inflammatory side will lead to ischemia. So here the same is written. Systemic inflammatory response syndrome is defined as two or more of the following variables, that is fever, heart rate, respiratory rate, and abnormal white blood cell count, or it is a non-specific disease and can be caused by ischemia, inflammation, trauma, infection, or several other insults which are combined together to result in this syndrome. What is then sepsis? In order to remember sepsis, all the complications, all the factors that are present in the systemic inflammatory response syndrome, plus adding them documented or suspected infection, along with systemic manifestation, along with elevations of procalcitonin, C-reactive proteins, hyperglycemia, and hyperglycemia in those patients who are non-diabetic, along with mental status. Four things need to be remembered along with systemic inflammatory response syndrome. Number 1, suspected infection. Number 2, systemic manifestation of infection. Number 3, elevations of procalcitonin, C-reactive proteins, hyperglycemia in non-diabetic patient. And fourth one is altered mental status. All these 4 components will lead to the definition of sepsis, which need to be memorized. What is severe sepsis? Severe sepsis leading to the evidence of organ dysfunction. Up till now we have studied the whole systemic function of the body. Now we are going to discuss organ-wise complications. What happens in the severe sepsis? Severe sepsis include all the manifestations that are happening in sepsis, along with adding them evidence of organ dysfunction. Organ dysfunction may be assessed via arterial hypoxemia, that is the partial pressure of oxygen less than 300, which is normal, the normal of which is 500, or acute oliguria, that is the urine output less than 0.5 milliliter per kilogram per hour for at least 24 hours. The normal urine output in a normal person is less than or is near about equal to 0.5 milliliter per kilogram per hour. There would be an increase in the creatinine concentration in case of severe sepsis, which will lead towards a diagnosis of any kind of renal damage or coagulation abnormalities with international normalized ratio greater than 1.5, or activated partial thromboplastin time would be 60. Then while further referring towards the organ dysfunction, hepatic dysfunction is there. How to assess the hepatic dysfunction? Via elevated bilirubin level, paralytic ileus, decreased capillary refill, or skin mottling will be there. Now if we look for the septic shock, what is septic shock after SIRS, after sepsis, after severe sepsis? Septic shock is basically the symptoms of hypertension along with the symptoms of sepsis. There is hypertension, refractory to fluid resuscitation, or hyperlactinemia. What does that mean, refractory to fluid resuscitation or hyperlactinemia? It means that hypertension is being present in a patient with sepsis, along we have managed the fluid level in a normal range. Despite of this normal fluid, the patient is going in a state of hypertension, is referred to as septic shock. Another point here is refractory hypertension persists despite resuscitation with bolus intravenous fluid of 30 milliliter per kilogram, which I have told you now. Hyperlactinemia, that is lactose level will be greater than 1 millimole per liter in the blood. Is a state of physiologic derangement in which organ dysfunction is not capable of maintaining homeostasis. That means the normal homeostasis of the body is not maintained by our systems. What is a multiple organ dysfunction syndrome? It is a state of physiologic derangement in which organ function is not capable of maintaining homeostasis. Our body is not maintaining homeostasis in our normal range, as our organs are not functioning properly. In this discussion we have done with systemic inflammatory response syndrome, sepsis, severe sepsis, septic shock, and multiple organ dysfunction syndrome. Hope you have cleared this all.